Strixhaven is Magic's next set, and after the recent revealing of the unbelievable Japanese Special Archive cards as well as the less exciting but still fun English counterparts, it's safe to say that I am really excited for this set. And I highly doubt I'm the only one. I mean, look at this Japanese demonic tutor art. I might need a demonic tutor in Japanese because I'm moving. That is a joke. I do not mess with demons and I am not moving to Japan. Yet. Justification. But Strixhaven so far has brought with it more than an excuse for me to make dad jokes. It's brought a cycle of 5 commands, which are what we will discuss in today's video, more specifically their application in Elder Dragon Highlander. So if you're looking for my take on a specific card, there will be timestamps below for each individual card. Note that all of my takes are more speculation as I am yet to play with these cards, so if you disagree, agree, or feel like I missed something, feel free to say so in the comments. So without further ado, I present my take on 5 cards I have never played. Please don't leave. Witherbloom Command is the Golgari command, costing 1 black and 1 green for a sorcery. This reads, choose 2. Mill 3 cards, then you may return a land card from your graveyard to your hand. Destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Note that mana value is converted mana cost. Target creature gets -3/-1 until end of turn, and target player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. In my opinion, the best thing about this card is that it's 2 mana. This means that each ability we choose costs 1 mana. Most of the time in Commander, I think that one of the 2 abilities we choose will be the destruction of a non-creature, non-land permanent with CMC 2 or less. This can target almost all of the best mana rocks in the format, from Soul Ring and Mana Crypt to Arcane Signet. But this can also take care of more annoying and powerful cards. Wrenn and 6 isn't played the most in Commander, but it can be killed for essentially 1 mana with this card. Winter Orb gets destroyed, and the ever-annoying and problematic Stasis can bite the dust. The more I talk about this card, in fact, the better it looks. It can even take care of something like a Lightning Greaves or Swiftfoot Boots, which are Commander staples. But I don't think that's the only good mode on this card. The mill ability is going to be relevant in a good number of games, whether it be building a graveyard or hitting a land drop. That mode will synergize well in Muldrotha the Gravetide, Sidisi, Brood Tyrant, or Nethroi, Apex of Death, all very popular self-mill decks. As someone who plays both Sidisi and Nethroi, I could see myself slotting this card in because the mill ability guarantees some value every time I play the card. But if you aren't facing an early mana rock and you're not playing a self-mill deck, does this offer anything for you in terms of value? Yes, the -3/-1 kills a surprising amount of relevant creatures, or should I say mana dorks, like Elvish Mystic or a more powerful Noble Hierarch. This can provide some answers of the other accelerants that decks not running Soul Ring may play. Later in the game, this mode admittedly gets much worse. It could sometimes kill a really early game or recasted Tuvasa the Sunlit, but I wouldn't count on it. What I would count on this getting rid of are some less popular EDH cards, like Creepy Doll, which is played in over 1,000 Commander decks. Darksteel Mirror is in over 1,600 decks on EDH-Rec and dies to -1 on the back end. Toski, Bearer of Secrets, is in almost 500 decks already despite being brand new. So yeah, nothing insane, but not without its uses. And not every mode has to be top tier to make a top tier card. That's why there are 4 modes in total. We get to choose the ones we want. Finally, target opponent loses 2 and we gain 2. This isn't game warping or really even relevant in EDH, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have any uses. Abzan Life Gain does exist, and Belby Corrupted Observer synergizes with this mode. I do wish it said each opponent loses 2 life, because that wouldn't change anything in 1v1, and it would make it that much more playable in Commander, but I can't complain too much because I really do love this card. Overall, variety makes almost any card better, and this card is good because it not only has variety, but synergy, relevancy in Commander, and great art at a low cost. Overall, I think this is a highly playable card. Next up is Quandrix Command, the Simic command for 1, a green, and a blue mana. This is an instant, making it more powerful mind you, and it has 4 abilities of which we can choose 2. It reads, return target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand, counter target artifact or enchantment spell, put 2+1 counters on target creature, and target player shuffles up to 3 cards from their graveyard into their library. The fact that this card is an instant will impact my assessment of it greatly, because the element of surprise is really nice. So as we go through, keep in mind that this can be played at any time, and that each ability you choose essentially costs 1.5 mana, because we may choose 2 and the card is 3. Bouncing a creature is a typical effect. We've seen Unsummon plenty of times in the past. It's a fair 1 mana spell that can set back opponents. It removes counters or auras or equipments, or maybe even a token from the game. There's a reason Unsummon is in over 3,000 decks, especially when Reform is a card that gets a lot of play and is really annoying. But bouncing a Planeswalker, we don't see that commonly. It's much more common to see return target permanent to its owner's hand on something like Blink of an Eye, which is approaching 6,000 decks on EDH-Rec. Bouncing a Planeswalker has its advantages if a Planeswalker is getting close to its ultimate, for example, or if the Planeswalker in question is one we can counter next turn with more mana available. Also useful if the Planeswalker in question will prevent us from winning and we need one more turn before we can win. Third ability has to do with counters. This can be relevant in literally any counters matter build that can run it. Vorl of the Hulklade can really make those counters count, as 2 turn into 4, 4 into 8, and 8 into 16. Atraxa, Praetor's Voice can make those counters count similarly, but not as explosively. This is another command where I appreciate the usefulness. Last ability is Gaia's Blessing, but a worse version, which is not a card I frequently run in decks. It has synergy with Prime Speaker Vanifar and similar tutors, but that seems to be about it. Yes, there are some corner cases where this may, for example, counteract a mill deck, or allow an opponent with a tutor to get a board wipe and save the game from ending sooner, but I don't think this will be making too much of an impact. Overall, this card is fine. It's fair, it will work when it works and has the potential to be good, but the entire card seems like it has a few too many corner case applications to be making a big impact with the artifact or enchantment stipulation and the graveyard shuffling. The other command at 3 mana is the Is It one of my favorites, Prismari Command. Prismari Command is 1 mana, 1 blue mana, and 1 red mana for another instant. You may choose 2 of the following. Prismari Command deals 2 damage to any target. Target player draws 2 cards, then discards 2 cards. Target player creates a treasure token. Destroy target artifact. First ability, 2 damage. This can kill off the same mana dorks as the Golgari Command to start with, as long as they don't somehow gain indestructible. Consider your Llanowar Elves gone against this card. But we also do get to kill things with 2 toughness. Kalia of the Vast is a wildly popular commander that can die to this in most circumstances. And we may even be able to fell ourselves a Crick, Son of Yawgmoth, before the deck has a chance to cast black spells. But as many cards as this can kill, I don't think that's where this ability will be best. I personally prefer using the 2 damage as a way to kill players at low life or planeswalkers. Some planeswalkers tend to stick around at low loyalty, like Garruk Cursed Huntsman. It comes in at 5 loyalty with no clear plus ability and a very useful -3. In short, Garruk at 2 loyalty is pretty common. Next ability is the target player drawing 2 and discarding 2. We could play this in a deck that cares about discarding cards like Liliana's Caress, or we could use this when we play it in Nekusar the Mindrazor because it does damage per card our opponents draw. Or we could be selfish and use this to select the best hand possible. I don't think this is too complicated of a mode, it's simple and adds some good card selection. Next mode is target player creates a treasure token. Pretty simple again. Does this make this worth playing in an artifact deck? Maybe, but to be honest, I'm more excited to play this with Calamax because it seems so fun when we get an instant rebate of 2 mana and treasures off of a cast. This is another ability that seems really broad, and in my experience playing Commander, things that create mana can be used and abused. Last ability is Smelt. Blow up an artifact, pretty simple, but there are a lot of good targets for this, like Aetherflex Reservoir or the ever-synergistic Panharmonicon. Overall, what are my thoughts on this card? Given that it is in Is It, the treasure ability makes this playable in Melic-type decks that can break it. And by break it, I mean gain mana. The variance of this card is where it will excel. The fact that all the modes are good only makes it that much better. The best way I can describe this card is as a B-tier staple. This will likely see play in a lot of decks but never be the most powerful. It's useful enough and varied enough to be good, in my opinion. The fourth command is at 4 mana. Silverquill Command costs 2, a white, and a black for a sorcery, with once again 4 options and we have to choose 2. Target creature gets +3/+3 and flying until end of turn. Return target creature card with a mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Target player draws a card and loses a life, or target opponent sacrifices a creature. Let's start with the first mode. Unless you have Double Strike or you're playing a Voltron deck, +3/+3 and flying isn't normally going to be relevant, especially at sorcery speed. Could this be good? Yes, but I'm disappointed that the sorcery speed makes this almost completely irrelevant in many situations. Next ability returns a creature with CMC 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's not awful, but Unearth is better and costs only 1 black mana. This mode has its uses. It brings back Mana Dorks, Viscera Seers, and a bunch of key components to Teysa Karlov decks like Zulaport Cutthroat. Again, bringing back a creature is really good, but this ability is majorly overcosted when you think about the fact that each mode basically costs 2 mana. Next mode, draw a card and lose a life. That's just a half sign in blood. That's like a sticky note in blood. There's a little synergy here with cards like Vilis, Broker of Blood, but that's sort of irrelevant if we're getting so little value. Obviously, this isn't here to break the card, it's meant to replace the card as it leaves our hand. But why couldn't this mode have been revitalized? Why couldn't this be life gain over life loss? I say that because life gain could have increased the synergy of this card by a lot, and increased its ability to be played. I would consider this as I'm making my life gain deck, because it will be a life gain card with other options. But losing a life and drawing a single card is so underwhelming and disappointing. The last effect is also underwhelming. It's Chainer's Edict without flashback. It's not a bad effect, but my complaint here is going to supersede everything this card manages to do well. In Commander, oftentimes it seems like a fight between good cards for every single slot. The best value per card and the most synergy often makes a card good. The Unearth mode is worse than the actual card Unearth because it doesn't have cycling and it only gets CMC 2 or less. The +3 in flying is relevant many times. The card draw is 1/2 of a sign in blood. The Chainer's Edict effect doesn't even have flashback. I just don't see this paying for itself in mana, and at the end of the day, if a card doesn't pay for itself, it's not a good investment. I could be wrong about this card, but it doesn't seem great. Last up is the Boros Command. Oh no. Here we go. Create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain indestructible and haste until end of turn. Lorehold Command deals 3 damage to any target. You gain 3 life. Sacrifice a permanent, then draw... Hold on, I think I got that wrong. Sacrifice a permanent and draw 2 cards. Draw 2 cards. Draw 2 cards. Whoa. As much as I would love to discuss the implications of saying draw a card, here I am going to try and resist and instead focus on the modes. In the realm of 2021 Magic cards, a 3/2 costs about 2 mana, and given that each ability will cost 2.5 mana on this card, because 5 divided by 2 is 2.5, this seems fair. Maybe this could be a good battalion card, creating another attacker or synergize with Winota, Joiner of Forces. Giving all creatures +1/+0, indestructible, and haste is really fair for 2.5 mana, and reminds me a lot of an Unbreakable Formation type deal. It doesn't give vigilance, but it does give haste, which can enable some creatures that just entered to attack. 3 damage and 3 life is Lightning Helix, which is played a lot in Firesong and Sunspeaker. Sack a permanent, draw 2 cards. Seems like it's meant to go with treasures, like those created by Smothering Tithe. Seems like a decent 2-mana card draw spell, and not a direction I'm mad at Boros to go down. At instant speed, this seems incredibly fair. 5-mana instants can be a bit clunky, but there is a unique position where all 4 abilities pay for themselves in what they do, and I could see myself playing this in a deck, but suffers from the classic Boros problem of not being able to produce enough mana to just have that mana sit there waiting for this card to be relevant. But I don't see too many alternatives. It's card draw, and the advantages of surviving a board wipe can actually negate a lack of ramp. If my opponents use all their resources into amassing an army that will just die to Wrath of God, they may be left with only a few cards in hand, while we have more due to our lack of ramp. It might be a situation where Boros is so bad that it's actually good. But if you play Commander and disagree with my assessment of these cards, feel free to let me know, or let me know if I missed something. If you liked this video, make sure to let me know as well by pressing that like button. Please press that subscribe button as well while you're going on an absolute tear of the buttons, as it helps me grow my channel a lot. I know that you hear,
"Please subscribe,"
a lot, but that's because YouTube provides content creators access to more resources and a partner program which allows channels to be monetized at 1,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed, subscribing makes a huge difference in getting me closer to that milestone of 1,000 subscribers. Thanks! If you want to get any of these cards, then may I suggest a very good website? TCGplayer.com. I have an affiliate link in the description below that gives a bit of the proceeds to the channel when you order through it, allowing my channel to grow. Just watching and liking the video also helps me a lot, so don't forget to subscribe if you made it all the way through this video. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.